Hi, today I want to address some of the comments that came through in the last few videos, and it's going to be a mix of things such as the simulation theory, something about death and your death experience, also called NDE, and a few other things which I found pretty interesting. I also want to say that whenever you have something that you want to record or share, it seems that there's so many distractions around. So yesterday there were a whole bunch of fire alarms. It was almost impossible to do anything. And today you have the screaming child scenario in your neighborhood. So yeah, always a fun time to trying to get your stuff together. I want to start off with a comment that we got on the chakra removal video. I did pin it, but just for people who didn't see that, or just to kind of have like this video on it too. It was very interesting because it's about George Cavasalis. And I'm going to start reading the comment and just add my few comments in regards to it. So the person saying, I went through a guided process for chakra removal led by George Cavasalis back in 2018. It's very hard to find much on him, Cavasalis in general. He seems to be Australian, judging by his accent, but he also seems to have kind of like spoken in certain type of conferences or speaking conventions in Vancouver, Canada, and a few others. So it seems like he was just traveling around a bit. And he does have a website, but similar to Lisa Renee, the website doesn't say a whole lot, or rather it's quite outdated. And I always like to compare him a little bit to Lisa Renee. Like Renee has her membership and that's how she stays relevant and still damages a lot of people through it, which I want to make a separate video on that again, because over the past 2 years, there have been more things in regards to that I want to share. But with this guy, it's a bit unclear to me how he still stays relevant because he's not producing anything new. A lot of videos are just 10, 12 years ago, most of them online at least, or the public ones. Maybe he's somewhere else. I'm not sure. It's hard to find. So if anyone knows, just comment below. It seems like he was underground and then popped up again. So that's pretty much in the same style. Others have done it who've received a lot of backlash for whatever they're teaching, right? Including Renee and including others too, who received a lot of criticism and people who are actually damaged by it. So the comment continues to go on. The intent for removal was because chakras were considered implants that were inserted into the human aura by the AI god for the purposes of control. And when I read this, it was just so funny because it's literally what other people who are promoting this technique are saying as well. And they're saying it word for word, meaning they're legit plagiarizing Cavasil's work and selling it as their own. And that is quite disappointing because it means they're not getting any of their own insight. They're literally just using this technique. It seems they got it from this person, at least I'm assuming so. And just, you know, AI gods, implants. And the comment has a few other words that made me, you know, really think about, wow, they're literally just using his work word by word and offering it as their own and not giving any type of credit. And I find that quite disappointing. You know, it's really disappointing that people are not getting their own insight in regards to this, that they're just plagiarizing another person's work, wherever this person even is, you know. He seems to be using New Age terms, which I also found interesting. So he doesn't use super duper New Age terms in the sense of, oh, I channel the Galactic Federation of Light, or we're going to ascend to 5D and ascension in general, or whatever. He doesn't use that in a cringe way at all. But he does use other words, which are pretty New Age. I do want to point that out too. And so I'm personally a bit on the fence. I don't think this is like a truther or a mistruther or anything. Some like, I don't think he's on like the Max Spears team or anything, but I think he's literally more towards the New Age. And so for someone, at least one person who claims they're anti-New Age and they're also supposedly exposing New Age, for that person to promote this technique is a bit baffling because it appears a lot of New Agers actually promote chakra removal. And it does make you wonder about a lot of things, right? Like, why are people who are not New Age also promoting this? You know, what's really behind all of this? But yeah, I have my theories on that too. So the comment goes on saying, along with other teachings, the removal actually made sense at the time to me, so I consented to participate. Initially, I felt a big relief to have them gone and haven't noticed any negative impacts since. And that's fine. I do think some people literally won't notice much at all. But like I already said, the ones that are very energetically sensitive do notice a lot. And those are usually the ones who would probably notice an extreme EMF radiation around us too, just those type of things. Some people are just more tuned in. I don't want to say even more tuned in, because I don't know if this person is or is not tuned in, but some people just pick up on things way more than others. It's just a fact, right? I mean, I think we can all agree that some people just notice certain things more. If you look at animals, for example, they will notice way before we notice if when a person's mood is about to change. So it's similar to that. Some people just have more of that. Is it a skill set or a talent? I don't even know, but I think you know what I mean. It was also taught that there are only 3 natural energy centers to the body, and the implants interfered with their normal function. Once again, this is word by word what at least one more person is saying in regards to it, which I found was just so disappointing, right? Participants were also taught that if they changed their mind about the process, that the removal can be reversed and you can receive the chakras back by following the instructions in reverse, meaning instead of removing, you're reinserting them. So basically it's just another scam technique is what I read out of the in between the lines. That's what it looks like to me. Beyond the initial relief from removal, my experience was that they were never really removed. After a few months, when I tuned into the 3 energy centers, I saw the chakras too. Yeah, and that's also what I said in the video. You can still see them. There's just a blockage put on them, but very clearly you can see them. Absolutely. As far as I can see for myself, there's both. The 3 centers are the main generators, and the chakras are the creative centers that discern the different qualities of the human aura. I can describe it as the 3 energy centers are the directors, and the chakras are the choreographers of light and information. They work together. In conclusion, I don't think it's possible to actually remove them, but it's certainly possible to be manipulated into thinking you did, which is a total giveaway of your power. I actually do agree. I really agree with this sentence, because it's like, if you really wanted to remove them, you really should be doing this on your own. You shouldn't be asking another person to do so. Similar to the Kundalini removal as well, which I guess another person was saying, I do that. I don't do that. I would never mess with something like that for another person. If a person wants to know how to do that, they can, and I do teach that. But no, I would never even interfere with anything like that in the person's energy body, because as you can tell, you know, people are quite rattled with just this technique in and of itself. Looking back, it was silly of me to consider that chakra removal can actually be a thing, but I was also in a space where fear of being controlled by unseen forces was present. And I feel that's really the issue, especially with this entire mistruther, you know, simulation theory, soul trap community, all of that. Like, they're really banking off of people's fears of, oh no, I'm going to die and I'm going to be trapped here again to come back here if I don't follow your advice. And I feel it's just all this same pot. You can put it all in the same thing. That's really what they're banking off, the fear of people being controlled and not having the power to uncontrol themselves, or whatever. How would you say that? The fear to empower themselves from that, right? I don't believe that anymore, and I'm protected by knowing who I am. The dark forces are weak, energy grabbing power freaks. I do agree with that too. And the comment says that can only affect you if you let it. So they can affect you. And with the term of letting it, you are giving consent to it on a daily basis. Similar, already said in other videos, the way you're giving consent is subconsciously. They're distracting you daily with these daily things that almost don't matter. Similar to this, how this pop-up appears, or like a commercial appears on your TV screen, or somehow, if you just stick with the browser example, which, have you ever noticed Windows browser? It actually says Windows, like, what is it a Windows to, right? It's like a Windows browser. It's like a portal, like a window is a portal to something. So the Windows browser, they're telling you right then and there, it's a portal to something. And even if you're not using a Windows browser, if you're using a different browser, it's the same thing. But they're actually having the term Windows in the software that they're using, which is, you're giving consent. By using that, you're energetically giving consent to be hijacked through that. Now, you can be aware of it. You can have all of the, you know, anti-pop-up technology, whatever you want. In a similar way, you need to have that energetically too. So you do have to be aware. that of course they're trying to control you from the day you're born or even before you're born. Absolutely. And I think I talk about that all the time in these videos too. I had my pre-birth memory where I was literally saying, this is how they manipulate you into here too. And I might make a different video on it because there are just so many different scenarios that they do it. But legit, the more you're aware of it, the better, without banking on the fear that other people want you to bank on. Let's put it that way. And then the rest of the comment is, since I originally participated in the removal, it seems like it's caught on and became a thing. Yeah. So this was back in 2018 where they initially did it. It's true. I mean, we're like, what, 6 years later? It does seem to have become more of a thing. I agree. All it is another new age tool to make money off of and mess up people's minds and energy. So I'm happy to see that you're making it known that chakra removal is not necessary and potentially harmful, especially for sensitive souls. I 100% agree with that. I also found it's so interesting how there were literally comments below the video that I had made, and some people were trying to shame these people, literally saying, no, it's because you have other issues. That's why you feel so miserable. And that in and of itself is a form of gaslighting. Okay. And it's also a form of, are you seriously in a cult somehow that you literally believe just because these people had their chakras removed and they experienced this, it's because, oh no, it's because of their own trauma. It's because they had their other issues, other entities, blah, blah, blah. No, that's complete gaslighting. And that is a form of some people being in a cult that some of these mistruthers promote, similar to how the soul trapper community is a cult too. Which I'm going to read. I'm going to start reading some comments in regards to that. So let me just pull them up real quick here. Okay, there was one comment. Let's just stick with the same topic here. A person commented, I have myself tried very hard on this life and I have given up. Can't blame others for doing so. If something new comes around, I will be open-minded. For sure, my intent is not to return. That's great. If you can fix this place or yourself, that is good. Myself, I don't believe that anymore. I think it is always good to have open mind, to have an open mind, but I cannot believe the things that for me seems impossible. I'm not really sure what they're trying to say with that. This place does not seem a good place. So much abuse, deception in real life and in spirit realm. So my comment to that was, no one said it's a good place. And I feel that's really where a lot of people, they take a snippet out from the videos that I have, that others have, like, oh yeah, no, she thinks this is a good place. This is heaven on earth. I have never, ever said this is a good place. This is paradise on earth. But the point of those last videos was to show you how much of a cult this soul trapper community is and how they hijack your consciousness for their own agenda. And I've said that over and over again in the last two videos. And so it's always so interesting to see people who want to, tear that message apart because they can't wrap their heads around that there's an agenda behind the people promoting that, or the entities that control the people who are promoting it. And I think we all cannot ignore the fact that there were a few select people starting to talk about it, possibly 20 years ago. Who even knows? Like, a lot of things on the internet are fabricated. I do want to point that out too. But sure, let's just say some, like, one or two people started talking about this like a few years ago. Another person commented saying, oh, Buddhism talks about this too a few years ago. Buddhism's not really something I would personally rely on because Buddhists are some of the most complacent people out there. And this is coming from my own experience of having seen Buddhists here where I am and also in other places. And some of them also have a really angry energy. I just want to point that out too. So for people who are just meditating all day long, okay, great. I can't take that serious. Like, I'm sorry. It's just not a great example to throw that in the mix. But let's just say there are a few select people, one or two, who have talked about this a few years ago or 20 years ago. And now over the past 2 or 3 years, especially since Ike started promoting it, which Ike is controlled opposition, and people know, right? Like, I think that's clear at this point. It shouldn't be a huge shocker. But you cannot ignore the fact that most people who are trying to bank off of that right now, who talk about it constantly on their channels right now, that just started popping up a few years ago. And that's literally started popping up 2021, 2022, around that time when the 2020 agenda, oh, now we're going to put so much fear in people, with the, what being released and this and that, whatever. Okay, so that kind of worked or didn't work, depending on the person. And now we're running out of topics. Oh my gosh, the soul trap topic. That's how I can stay relevant. And if you especially look at a few people that I mentioned in the past few videos, they did not even talk about this up until very recently. In no aspect of anything they've ever talked or taught, they have never talked about this. So it's interesting that some of them seem to be the most offended of being called out on their BS, but I think it shows more about them than any video that is made on them could ever show. Like, look at the reactions of people who are questioned with chakra removal, with soul trap, with all of those things, and look at how they humiliate the people that they worked on. They're literally saying, like, this one person was literally saying, oh, no, it's because they have trauma. That's why they're still damaged. No, that's not. That it really does reflect more badly on their work or miswork than any video that I could make on it or others could make on it. There's also something else, but I forgot what I want to say. So we're just gonna leave it at that, especially for this one topic, because to be honest with you, there are so many things to discuss, and I feel we just keep getting backtracked by the backlash that you receive by these people, but also in general, like the energetics behind it. Like I already said, it's so hard to even stay focused and record a video these days, not just because of what's going on in the world in general, but also because they are throwing massive distractions my way and other people's way. And I'm noticing that very clearly. Now, I do know how to circumvent those, but of course it's not easy, right? Okay, so other comments. Here was a really good one on my BitChute. Can't say I'm ignoring BitChute comments at all, but this was a good one. And they're saying, I have a question. Once we go through the process of death, will we still be able to remember to not go into the light, or will all our memories be destroyed along with our physical brains? It's a valid question, because I mean, I guess it's not, this person's kind of saying, if you don't have a brain, if you die, thinking is connected to your brain, so the thinking kind of goes away. What I see, or what I've gotten on that, what I also see with others who have, just died, when come back, died, like, all this entire reincarnation cycle that people are stuck in. The consciousness in and of itself never really goes away. So there's a form of, for lack of a better word, a form of an inner knowing or inner consciousness that your brain does not, you don't have to have your brain in order to know once you're on the other side, you're on the other side, if that makes sense. It's very hard to put it in words, because it's more, you get a lot of this through feeling. And so putting it in words, which words are highly restrictive anyhow. But I hope that makes sense to a degree, where the more you can actually awake your consciousness right now, and that's literally the point of exactly the last video that I made. You need to be aware of this right now, of every single deception that they're throwing at you, including what all these soul trappers are trying to throw at you. You need to be aware of it right now, because right now you have your brain, you have your body, you have your consciousness, you have all of these tools, which your brain is a tool, the mind is a tool, your body is a tool, your health is a tool, all these things. You have that right now intact, where you are able, unless you have dementia, which is a different thing, where you are able to dig through these things on a conscious level. So you need to go through this right now, because you're literally only going to have a few seconds, even though time is irrelevant, of course, once you pass over, but you're literally only going to have like a very short time frame that's going to open up to you to make a decision of where you can go, what you can do, all those things. And so the more you can consciously involve your brain right now, with some sort of plan of where to go or exit and all those things, the better. But I do think, like, memories and those, I don't think memories really get destroyed. If you also look at all these people who are reporting from the NDEs, everything, the best memories get played within the last 7 minutes of their life, all that stuff. I do think there's a form of truth to that. I don't think any memories from past lives get destroyed ever too. So there's this form of consciousness that just is there, but you can train that consciousness right now. You can train it while you're still in this body, which is really important. And the more you can train it, and the more you can alleviate the shock of dying as well, really important, because some people are very afraid of dying, right? I don't know what the percentage is with that. But if we can just alleviate the pain, the shock, everything that goes with this entire death topic, the better. And that's something that I feel needs, like people need to do that right now while they still have the consciousness and not being misled by these, soul trap theories, whatever exoplans that really get us know that kind of just siphon you off into a new matrix. And here's another one. My friend passed away in hospital for 5 minutes. He said he was standing in the room watching them trying to bring him back. He said in the corner of the room at the top was the most beautiful white light he had ever seen, right? The white light's going to look beautiful because it's going to look peaceful, calm, all those things. They brought him back after 5 minutes. He said to me after that he's not afraid of death. So I guess he did pass away because he's saying rest in peace, Mike. And so another person commented, a lot of people say this is called in near-death experience. And then I just commented, yes, that's an NDE. And those are illusions to trick you more and drag you down a different matrix or confuse your energy body. So there's not just going to be one tunnel of light. There's going to be several different ones. And it's the wormhole theory that I also discussed, but I might have a different video on that too. Another person saying, surely when we're out of this physical existence, they can't mess with us to the same degree. I do think they can. Is it going to be the same degree? It's going to be on a different level because all they can mess with once you're out of this physical existence is literally your consciousness, right? However you want to imagine that. If you want to imagine that like this golden consciousness or whatever, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, that's what they're going to mess with. So that is the only thing they can mess with. And I do think it's going to be in a very ungrounded way unless you are really aware of what's going on. So it's really important to dig through all of this right now. Here's a really good comment. In an inverted world, fiction gave me more truth than those nonfiction people proclaiming to have the truth. LOL. Yeah, it's true. Ironically, a Sylvester Stallone movie called Escape Plan spoke to my soul more than these people talking about getting out, especially in the context of this is my first Earth life. In the movie, Ray Breslin, played by Stallone, is a professional escape artist of maximum security prisons where the odds are against him, which does imply that, yes, being here and being present is crucial for escaping, transcendence, salvation, etc. Well, I think salvation is like a Christian concept, is similar to ascension, so I don't agree with that. And to transcend and escape a world, you must understand it completely, know the system inside and out, how it's run, and what is exactly running it. Plus the final thing, know yourself and the essence in which is you. And that is absolutely important. You have to know who you are. They, meaning whoever controls this game, knows exactly who you are. They know who you were in previous lifetimes. They know who you are going to be in a future potential lifetime, whatever. They know exactly who you are. Your DNA pretty much stays the same from lifetime to lifetime. There's not too many changes in that sense. They know exactly who you are. And a lot of it is in your DNA, by the way. They know exactly who you are. You are the one who's confused who you are. You are the one who it's going to take a lifetime to figure out who you are, because there's all these, call them veils, call them whatever is in front of you, where it's hard to see through it. Like, you're not going to see through it when you're a kid. You're not going to see through it when you're a teenager. You have other issues when you're in your 20s. For most people, it takes up until their 30s or later, even maybe even after they retired, like 60 something, to really be like, bam, was this really it? Was this in my entire life? Or is there more purpose to my life, right? It is going faster and quicker right now, thanks or no thanks to like new age ideologies and other ideologies people are chasing, that they give you that truth. Oh yeah, of course, you came from somewhere entirely, blah, blah, blah. But then those truths are misleading too. So, it's kind of like you wake up a little bit and you get dragged down that rabbit hole or that trap theory, everything. So you need to be very careful, of course, but it does take a while for you to kind of just un-F yourself from every single program that's being thrown at you from day one. And to make matters worse, most likely you're going to be born to parents who don't want anything to do with this, just average people who are like working this, working that. Like, I don't want to say working factory jobs or working corporate jobs, but for most people, that's the case. And so they're in their own definition of a rat race. They're in their own definition of generational poverty, generational wealth, call it whatever the situation is people are in. And just reinforcing that matrix. And there's so many matrices around us, just this entire, like the relationship matrices, the parent-child matrices, the family matrices, you know, the job matrix, like, oh no, of course you cannot just, you know, empower yourself from that and become your own boss and those type of, there's just so much against you from day one because the system is put in place in terms of that. And a few hundred years ago, it was a different, I mean, I think nowadays we're actually in a better position because it doesn't mean just because you're born in a certain, uh, what do you even call that? Like a certain class or whatever, you have to stay in it. You know, like a few hundred years ago, people who were born in the poverty class or the middle class or whatever, they had to really stay in it. But nowadays, you actually have a lot of opportunities. You just have to know how to work them. And of course, luck is a huge thing as well, but really working with it and manifesting and creating is a huge thing in terms of that too. Now, of course, no one teaches you in school how to really manifest or how to create what you want or how to even ask for what you want. But I feel that just shows the matrices we are in. So it is important to know yourself and who you were previously. And a lot of, you know, the scripts that we're given can teach us that. Knowing the system inside out, you know, that's why I always like to talk about mythology. I like to talk about what the cults people were a part of, like people were worshiping gods a few thousand years ago. People were worshiping this and that. It's interesting because there are always clues in that. There's clues in every single story that you find that's a few thousand years old or a few hundred years old. And there's clues to what the system is or what the program is that they're running. But people who don't understand that, they just push that off because it's just too high for them, or it's just I don't even know what the reason for that. They don't want to be bothered with it. So they're not going to know the system inside out. And it is very important to know it because I feel everyone has a clue, a different type of clue, just because of personal interests or whatever we were in the past, let's put it that way. So we're going to have different paths that we're going to walk. It doesn't mean they're not going to merge or they're not going to have different clues that we cannot all use, but you need to be aware of that, of course. So I found this comment really interesting. There was also a series called Prison Break. I think that was around 2005. Was it 2005-ish? Somewhere around like 2001, 2008 or something like that, which is more about how someone tries to break out of a prison in Mexico or prison close to Mexico and then ends up in a prison in Mexico. I know I watched it back then, but I have to rewatch it, which is also interesting because they have all these prisons that people broke out around the turn of the century, right? Around the year 2000. And they even put it in their TV series. So I do think there was something major that happened around those times. And that was at this point, recording in 2024, 24 years ago. And things have gotten very strange and interesting since. Let's put it that way. Oh, another person saying, I'm honestly on the fence about the trap. The main thing that makes me think it could be a trap is the NDEs that say they were forced back here after clearly stating they didn't want to come back. If there's force involved to get a being back here, then that's a trap. The whole convo, no matter what side is supported, is more confusing than helpful. I agree. And that's why I personally don't even want to talk about this every single day like other people do who bank off of it, because I feel there are other clues that need to be pursued in order to make sense of the system that we're in order to know where to go. So I just asked who forced them and who were those entities. And the person replied, from what the experiences say, they are forced back by guides and such. So I also see it in a way that if you are religious, you do believe in Jesus, Christ, God, whatever, you one of those, or any type of religion, you can be Muslim too. It doesn't even matter what religion, or Jewish or Hindu or whatever. If you are religious, they're going to push a religious figure like Jesus. Oh, and this is your NDE. If you're not religious and you actually believe in guides and spirit misguides, how I like to call them, they're probably going to push the guides. Just like this one snippet said in the Coda episode from Star Trek, which was the last video, they forced her deceased father, who wasn't really her father. But like the episode also said, it wasn't hard to figure out that this was another entity trying to drag her down somehow, right? And then so I just replied, what about the people who don't have guides? Like, who are they really going to push into their reality? That would be interesting to know as well. But I feel there are just all these different experiences people are reporting. You know, some people are reporting being dragged down the light, and then all of a sudden part of their consciousness come back. And it could also be a form of a walk-in that they're experiencing, that parts of their consciousness was hijacked to somewhere entirely different, and now they came back. They're a form of a walk-in overtaken by entities. At least that's how I like to see it in those cases. And I do think there's a truth behind it, because walk-ins are promoted by the New Age. Walk-ins are promoted in other belief systems too. And so I think there's just so many layers to this in and of itself that overgeneralizing really doesn't help. And a lot of people like to overgeneralize, be like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is good. No, there's just so much that goes into it, right? So I think that was the last comment I wanted to discuss in this particular video. I hope this helps someone. Share your thoughts if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. But we're going to start digging through the actual system, because I think there's a lot of clues in there. And it's not going to be the easiest route, but I do think it's pretty necessary. I'll talk to you then, and see you.